Journalist Tony Gosling. Hi there, Tony. Why is the US considering training Syrian rebels at all? Do you think that they can come up with a better strategy the second time around?
Well, I hope so, yes. And obviously, because of the up-and-coming elections, there's a little bit of pressure on the Americans to come up with a coherent policy here. But, I mean, I'm afraid there's only one thing I can do with Riyadh Hijab from the rebel groups as part of this negotiation process, which is to laugh at him. I mean, he's called the opposition in the Western media, but actually he's now saying he may not even turn up to the peace talks. I would suggest that if he wants to be the opposition, that he should start fighting elections in Syria, like everybody else in the civilized world does. We had parliamentary elections in 2012 there that he possibly could have fought. Also, of course, the presidential election in 2014 he could have fought. And if he holds his horses and bides his time, the new constitution means Assad has only got 2 terms anyway. So why on earth does he not engage with the peaceful electoral process? That's what I think should happen here. And there's really no excuse for him to not turn up at these peace talks.
But the big question is what has changed on the ground, isn't it? Because last time we saw all these weapons coming in, you had moderate forces who turned out weren't so moderate. They were aligned with ISIL forces in the region. Some of the weapons went into their hands. So has anything changed that if the US give renewed support, that there would be a different outcome?
Well, look, I think the reality on the ground is become a big difference between the foreign policy as is being sold to the public here in the West and what's really going on the ground. Many of us have been told that it's a battle going on in Syria with ISIS. Actually, what's happening behind the scenes is a battle for Syria, for the hearts and minds. And America is slowly in positions where it's having to abandon some of its support for these rebels. It's becoming pretty clear that the rebels are very little difference between them and ISIL. In fact, what they're doing is they're trading with each other, exchanging weapons, some of the groups. And we've even had senior generals saying, oh, we should be supporting al-Qaeda in Syria. So, you know, I think actually the peace talks, they've got to go to these peace talks if we want any kind of real solution here, because I think actually the Americans are backtracking a bit and realising that their support for the rebels doesn't make sense in military terms, never mind the propaganda.
Turkey and the US have been trying to seal Turkey's border with Syria for months now with little progress. What makes the job so difficult, Tony? We're just running out of time, unfortunately, this hour.
Well, what makes it most difficult is that you've got a lots of interest in Turkey in keeping that border open, in infiltrating through agents one way and another, and also, of course, keeping some of the oil supplies running, which Russia has been concentrating on thwarting those oil supplies getting through. So, I mean, we've got double dealing from the Turkish Erdogan government, who has even, been talking about Hitler's regime as a good way of running things last week. You know, so I think Turkey's in a kind of meltdown. They can't actually make any clear, coherent policy either. And they're another casualty of this next-door war in Syria.
The thoughts of investigative journalist Tony Gosling. Thank you for that.
Thanks, Ewan.
Boom bust.